Okay. Hey man, what's happening? Another video here. First of all, I'd like to first greet you to a Happy New Year. This is the first of the first month of 2020. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year to you, man. So today, I'm just looking to restring my guitar because the strings at the moment are feeling a bit rough. Okay, you could probably hear the whistling of these strings here. It's a bit squeaky, just a little bit, and it feels a bit rough, not as smooth as when it was brand new. So what we have here is the PRS Custom 22, my usual. Now I'm using Elixir strings with this. It's because it's time to restring. I thought I would make a video about this and talk about my restringing. Also talk a bit about Elixir strings. Okay. The strings that we're going to be using with this is my new favorite, the Elixir Optiwebs, and my usual gauge, which is 10 to 52. That's the light heavy. I used to really like the NanoWeb, but ever since this came out, this has been my new favorite. It still has the same stainless steel plated plain strings, which is the G, B, and the E. Those three, the three top strings or high pitch strings. But the coating on the low strings are a bit thinner. Obviously, you probably already know this. Okay, now the reason why I like the Elixir strings is because the way it's wound, or the way it's coated, isn't the same as some other strings where it's coated on its core, on the inner core of the wound strings or the individual windings itself. So that means even if you're with those types of coatings on, when you play for a long time, the gong still gets stuck in between the windings. If it's a coated core, the windings aren't covered like Elixirs are, and when the coating is on the winding itself, there's still the dirt and stuff that can get trapped between the windings. You know what happens with that is that is a tone. But with Elixir, it's not the core that's coated, and it's not the individual windings that's coated. It's actually the whole thing is coated, and it's tightly coated. The result is the sound is still, it's not as bright as something like a Diodario or your favorite Ernie Ball Slinkies. I do use them too when it comes to live. Oh no, not live, in the studio, because it's always good to have that brightness from the guitar itself from the get-go. But when it comes to Elixir, you could say it has that slightly played-in feel with the Optiwebs strings, and I don't mind the tiny compromise on the tone. The thing that is of value to me with these strings is that they last long. This is my workhorse string. When I practice a lot, these are really durable for me because my hands are really sweaty. If I used I used to really love the Ernie Ball string, the uncoated ones, and the Diodario, but because of my kind of acidic or whatever kind of sweat, the string corrodes within a day, and the strings feels really rough, and it looks and sounds dark because of the corrosion, and I hate that compromise, that big compromise in tone in such a short period of time. Whereas Elixir, you start off a little bit lower, let's say 90-92% as good a tone as your typical uncoated string, but the tone, at least with Elixir, it drops very slowly, and that's what I like. It's a very minimal diminishing of tone. So I'm gonna go ahead and start loosening the strings. Now normally I just clip the strings directly on here, just like that, but what I do is I unwind the posts here, because even when I clip the strings from here, I end up aligning the string post here anyway, so the holes are pointing towards the bridge. So I'll unwind this. I'm gonna use my unwinding tool. Okay, this is gonna be a lot quicker. Let me just show you what I mean by with the posts. See how they're facing, the holes are facing the bridge. Okay, and then these tuning posts, and they also have these locking screws here. So I unlock that, unlock all of them. I think usually it just takes one turn, just like that, and they all turn the same way too. Clockwise to tighten, counterclockwise to loosen. So it doesn't need much. Alright. Take all that off. Okay, I had to use the pliers to pull the strings from the bottom there. Okay, because the trim cover is still at the back, attached to the back end. It's blocking the path of the ball ends. Then I just get them by the ends here, and then kind of align them together so that these ones are, the ends here are together, and then from there I just roll them up all together. Okay, now the reason I choose the ball ends hanging out like this is that when you tie it up like this, you don't have those pointy things like this sticking out and flying about and potentially poking you, and so I choose that. Alright, we'll put that aside. Now since we have a show coming up somewhere in February, I might as well give the fretboard a clean with this. And what I use, I pretty much just use an old toothbrush, and I'll show you the compound that I use. Alright, so this is what I use. So here in Australia, or at least in Sydney where I am, we have a hardware store called Bunnings, and then we have this shellite. Alright, Digger's shellite is what I use. The thing I like about Digger's shellite is that I think the similar stuff wherever you are could be lighter fluid or methylated spirit, but it doesn't smell as much, and the liquid isn't as thick or as heavy as water or methylated spirits. And I just put some elbow grease in there. Use a toothbrush to brush off all of the gunk in there. Alright, all the finger funk, all the dick cheese, and all the dirt. Get the camera nice and close. Alright, so you can see how there's the dirt. Some of them might be a bit tough to remove because you'll get it. Now the other thing that I like about shellite is if you accidentally pour this on your guitar, it just evaporates right off. It doesn't linger, and it's probably not conductive, I'd imagine. I mean, hopefully not. It shouldn't be, because there's some other solutions out there that's made for compound. for conduction. See how, take a dip there and then put it on the board, and as you brush it just simply dries off. Okay, maybe not instantly, but see how it's already almost dried off. If you pour it on the guitar, it just evaporates, so you don't have to worry too much. This will be a while. I'm going to be brushing this until I'm satisfied with all the gunk being removed. Make it a bit more presentable in our show. If you're in Sydney, or if you're gonna be in Sydney around February 15, the show is going to be in the Hideaway Bar. The Hideaway Bar is in Newtown, I believe. If you're in town, in Newtown, drop by and watch Stellar Addiction. Say hi. Okay, I noticed some of the things here, some of the dirt in here is a bit more caked on than I expected, so sometimes I also use my fingernails to scratch them off. It doesn't do too much damage to the fretboard, or if anything at all, as long as you be careful with it too. Now when it comes to the upper registers in here, like this is 17, 19, 17 fret onwards, it probably doesn't need too much brushing in there, because that I don't really play on those registers too much, especially up here on this side here. Sometimes I play the high strings up here, but on the low strings not so much, because it doesn't sound the best to me. It sounds really held back and choked. So instead of playing the stuff here, I play on the same notes somewhere here. Drop down a string, or go up if you're talking about the string tone. So we'll do a little bit more passes on this with the brush, and I should be happy with it. Alright, I'm pretty satisfied with this, so I'll put all the leftover shellacs back into the container, onto the bottle, put this on the side. Let's have a quick look on this. Good looking, clean rosewood. So you probably already known about why I put some tape on this from one of my previous videos of the PRS and Custom 24 and 22. This is just to kind of keep the pickups from getting corroded from sweat, and it helps it keep the pickups somewhat shiny. The only thing is because some of the pole pieces are lifted, it kind of looks, this part here looks bad, but who cares? I got used to it. Same in the bridge pickup here. Now I put a little bit of tape there. I know it's a bit mismatching, but they're staying put and they're not moving, even though I've played the guitar so much in so many shows. This is to prevent my sweat and the dirt from my palms from getting into the screws on here, especially this saddle. It'll get in there and clog it up and rust it, and it's gonna be a bit difficult to adjust later on. And I also put tape in here, some clear tape. It's hard to see that, but there's some clear tape in to cover these screws here so they don't corrode, such as this one. So this has already been taped, but somehow the moisture has still seeped into it. I don't know. Hopefully our replacements are gonna be cheap, but this is the way I do it. So the 5815 pickup. Alright. Now I would say the guitar is ready to be restrung. So I'll go ahead and open up the Optiwebs. So I'll put it, I just do it one by one. Starting from the 52. I don't know if it really matters too much, but this is just how I started off. And then I insert them all one by one. Actually, I'll just get all of this out. So 42, 32, 17, which is the G, 13 for the B, 10 for the high E string. Okay, so A string, string that through all the way. Alright, man. Now this is all the strings that's run through the bridge. So this is how I got it looking. Okay. Alright, so this is a crucial step for me, for locking tuners. This only applies for locking tuners mostly, I think. Unfortunately for you with no locking tuners. So what I do is I pull it all the way up until it touches the saddle like this. You hear that? I kind of bend it a little bit on the bridge. So if you look closely like this, you kind of bend it like that. Okay, so it doesn't move around like this one, for example. It doesn't move around too much. Then you pull it all the way until here. So all the way up to there. Now what I normally do with this is I hold it up to here till up until the post, and say like that. So from this side of the post here, this one here, I give it about, for the low E string, I would say about 2 millimeters, like this. Alright, from where my fingernail is, and then from there chop that right up there to the fingernail there. And then from there I'll hold it up like this. So normally it comes a little bit past the post. See how it's sticking out a little bit? I pull that back just a little bit, so there's nothing really sticking out like that. One of the things that I hate seeing is when other guitar players, let's say in a show, where you gotta have like some level of professionality. You can do whatever you want, you know, but when you see guitar players having all those coils on the headstock, coils of strings, and then sometimes they don't even do anything with it, it's just hanging out, poke someone's eye with it. I mean, if you're into the whole, all the strings hanging out of the headstock, I guess that's what you're into, but do whatever you want, you know. Just don't hurt other people, and what you're doing is probably gonna hurt people. I know I've been poked by when I moved someone's guitar headstock out of the way and there was some string poking out, and it hurts, you know. So I try to keep it neat. So I'm pretty much gonna just do the second one. The second one seems a bit different because it's probably got to do with the thickness of the string, the way they coil around. So for the second string, I'll just press it on the bridge like this while holding it tight. So if you look at the second string, instead of like before, like 2 millimeters, you maybe just 3 millimeters. I mean, it seems like it's so trivial, but I'm a bit OCD like that, because when you wind the post until it's in tune, I like it to be I like the string to be resting kind of like on the side like this, so it's not really hanging. I just have this paranoid feeling that the edges of the hole is gonna be sharp. It's probably not. It's probably just my imagination and my paranoia. But Also make sure you tighten the posts here, because sometimes they seem to slip while you're tuning it. Alright, use a coin because you can get more torque in there. Okay, hand tighten using the coin. Alright, and do a tentative tuning. That's probably too high, but we'll leave it like that for now. So another reason why I also don't let the string go past the post is because when it's sticking out like this and you're winding the string as you're tuning it, I don't really like it when those hit like this. See how there's a bit of excess there. Now the string is a bit high already, so that would be higher than you'd normally tune an A string. Okay, but when you require more windings, it's gonna hit that. It's gonna be resting on the on that little extra there. All right, so I'm gonna wind that back now. All right, so hopefully it's gonna be all right. And that's why I cut the string the way I do. There's a bit of perfectionism there. Okay, moving on. What I also do in some days is I don't quite pre-wind the strings. I kind of just leave them like this, just a bit loose. So I'm gonna do this for the rest of the strings here, and these three here. Okay, all the strings are now attached to the posts, to the string post. So now I'm gonna commence the winding and do a pre-tuning. Alright, so this is already pre-tuned. So what I'm gonna do next, I just use my little amp here. I have the Joyo Top GT. I'll use my other wireless system, NUX wireless system. Alright, I got it here. I just couldn't be bothered with cables, that's why I use wireless, even though it's this close. Whatever works, you know, speeds up the flow. Plug that at the back, turn everything on, get a tuner. Okay, so I've got the Polytune headstock tuner. We'll just do this. So the way I tune this, I'll tune them slightly sharp. So for example, this string here, I tune this to, let's say E. I normally tune it to drop D. Let's put it to E. And the A string, say A sharp. This is about close. This is close to A sharp. G string will be about G sharp. That's all tuned a bit sharper. Now this is an important step when it comes to restringing. You gotta stretch them out. Also, what I do is I use a towel because it's just, especially on the plain strings, they're a bit sharp. So I use this. I use my thumb like this here, and then I use my finger to pull with this part of the palm being a pivot point. Take a closer look here. The strings are there, and just cover it up. So the bridge is around here, and then lay your palm there. Look for the string. Secure it with your palm. Additional support. So this is pushing. The palm is pushing down as well as your palm. So sorry, the thumb and the palm are pushing down, while the fingers are pulling up. So you just gently pull throughout the length of the string. Alright, just gently pull, just gently, so that you don't snap the string, break the string prematurely, and then you go back. Usually that's usually all you need. 2 passes back in one, and then you go back. So I'm moving on to the B string now. You can also do it just 1 pass this way and then the second this way again. It's up to you, whatever works for you. Your mileage may vary. The other thing as well is if your strings weren't coated and you were doing this with a towel, or even maybe just your bare hand on uncoated strings, as you're doing this and then you're sliding your hand up and down, or the towel, whatever, there's already some stuff that gets stuck between the windings. Because this one does have a coating, I'm not worried too much about that. Okay, That's pretty much all of the strings stretched. Let's do another tuning. This time the correct tuning. Another thing as well to note is whenever I'm doing the proper tuning, I do it upright, because that way when you're doing this, the neck is resting on like the towel, for example, and it does have an effect on it. Even though it's just a bit of weight, there is a difference. And if you want your guitar to be in tune and you're serious about that, then that's what you gotta do. Now I'm just gonna tune this with the polytune as well as listening to it on the amp. Alright, so that's pretty much a good basic tuning. Now the second part of my tuning is I tune it by ear now. I make sure that the power chords don't have any of that oscillating effect, and the power chords just sound like it just rings true, if you know what I mean. Put the volume up on this and maybe put some more gain. So you can almost some more gain so you can really hear it. Can you hear this oscillation here? Can you hear that? Alright, so I'll tune it with that. So I can tell that it's the D string that's a bit flat, because when I strum the power chord and I bend the D string a little bit, the sound straightens out. See the difference? Okay, and so on and so forth. I'll just tune the rest of the strings this way. So the reason I don't tune it with harmonics is because you don't usually play the guitar with harmonics. You usually play them by pressing on the frets. So it's a more true kind of tuning, if you catch my drift. Okay, that's it. It's pretty much in tune. Just lay this back down and we'll just have a look at the work. Turn the volume down on the amp. Alright, we'll see how she's looking from this side here. See, it's neat and tidy. There's nobody excess coils, any of that wandering excess strings flying out everywhere, just waiting for someone to get poked. It's a good, clean, professional restringing. Another thing that I also do is I get a piece of black tape, duct tape, which I just kind of fold up some, and then I'll just lay it up on top of the of here, just like that. You might say that it's better to use foam, but I don't really like the look of foam unless I can have access to black foam. But I just use this. This is good enough. It's still a bit stealthy. It kind of, in a way, blends in with the nut. I don't really care much about the C being covered there a little bit. That kind of works pretty good. I pretty much do this sound dampening here so that these strings, because the PRS guitar is a bit of that kind of instrument that resonates. These strings tend to ring out when you're doing the really staccato type playing, staccato riffs, and those gent type with the pauses in between. So I need this tape in here. I don't really have to worry about the bridge, because underneath the bridge there's already I did put some tape material inside the springs so that the springs don't ring too much. I've already taken care of that. But this is pretty much a really good workhorse guitar. Now you might say this is sponsored, or I'm sponsored, or whatever, by Elixir strings or whoever, but I don't have any sponsors, or I'm not being endorsed, or none of that. All of this is paid for by me, just like everyone else, every other consumer. I mean, it'd be nice if I have a endorsement. That'd be alright. I don't know what the implications of that are, but who knows? Whatever comes. I just gotta clean all of this up. See this? That flicking action. See this? That's dangerous, man. That's what happens when there's excess string hanging out of the headstock here. Even on an emergency restring, you shouldn't even be in that situation anyway. You should I don't know, find the time, make some time to do this properly. But even if you're in a show and you're doing some emergency restringing, you can always do the metal fatigue thing, where you can just bend it back and forth until it snaps. You know, once you're finished tuning, do that. That way it snaps right at the post and it's clean. So I got all of the strings, all of the all of the trash, all of the rubbish. I just put all of the papers back in the box to be disposed of. And maybe as an extra, dispose of your excess strings and your old strings properly, because otherwise the environmentalists are gonna be out to get you. Alright, so that's pretty much typically my restringing session with PRS. I've gotten a pretty good groove, I believe, of how to restring it. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, guys. If you've stayed for this long, Happy New Year to you all. Hope you have a good start to the year, did something good. Hope I didn't bore you too much, but hopefully you were bored anyway, which was why you looked at a long video like this. I thought I just wanted to share my methods, and hopefully it's going to be useful to at least someone out there. If you like this video, click the thumbs up, consider subscribing too, and clicking that notification bell for all notifications. And if you dislike the video, maybe you can just double click that button. But hopefully this you've gotten some tips on your next restring. And until next time, I'll see you and take care. Have a good one.